or some other places, but Foronix, and I'll put this link downstairs, or link.
We'll put it in the description. Is that what you meant? Or the
Let's,
comment?
let's put it there. That works better than downstairs because downstairs I don't have a downstairs here anyway. So
Oh, I'm impressed that you got it there.
yeah, lift the foundation, put it in there.
Like father,
Like son.
just two regular guys that love to distro hop.
Not too technical or even bleeding edge.
But functional and necessary for getting things done.
In Linux and open source.
Join us as we learn together on the Father
And Son podcast.
Well, welcome to episode 3 of Like Father, Like Son Linux Review Podcast. I'm Father,
I'm son.
and this is our review podcast. And today we're going to be reviewing CachyOS, which is a fairly new Arch-based Linux that is getting popular because of its speed, and it's really easy to use. So we thought we'd go ahead and try it out. Of course, we didn't know all that beforehand. We just randomly picked it off and decided to go with it. So
Yeah, and
that's the way it goes,
we've been thoroughly impressed with the speed. I mean,
Yeah.
really great operating system thus far, and look forward to explaining a little more.
A little bit more time with it, yeah. The title of this podcast is Cashing In on CachyOS. So I wanted to say, is there any corrections from the last episode?
That I can think of, not at this moment. Was there one that you thought of? Or
No,
saw?
I did not, but I always like to keep that there so we can always go back and say, hey, by the way, we said this. We actually meant this.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to explain a little bit better, or, someone got back in and commented on that, and they're right. And we had that wrong, so let's get that correction in there. So
What we've done in the last couple of weeks in Linux, or open source or computer, IT in general, what have you done?
Well, first we went on vacation. You knew that because
Yeah.
you were there. We went and celebrated JT's. That'd be JT the third,
The fourth.
the fourth rather. The fourth, and he had a birthday party, so we went to Fort Worth and they did the Wolf Lodge, and we were doing other stuff. But when we got back, I was messing with a MacBook, a 2015 MacBook Pro.
that I'm
and-
playing with right now.
Yeah, you're using it right now, and it was a dual boot that I put on there, and I put Zorin on. And Zorin, for some reason, I don't know what it was. It was just annoying. It wasn't making it where it wasn't useful or anything like that. But you come in, and wherever that mouse pointer was, it would make an imprint, if you would, of that mouse pointer right there in the middle of that screen, almost like a wallpaper. And then you turn around, and you're moving your mouse around. You can move your mouse around anywhere you wanted, right? But then you keep going back to that pointer because it's right there in the middle of the screen, and that's not where your mouse was, and you're moving your mouse around somewhere. Anyway. Needs to say, there's nothing wrong with Zorin. Zorin's a good product. It's more of a, Ubuntu Debian type based, and you can pay for it. And the cool thing, what I was trying to do at first is, I knew that Zorin, since I already purchased it a long time ago, it has one of those things you can change the desktop, on the fly, if you will.
Yeah, makes it look like a Mac or Windows.
And that's what I was going for, that Mac look. I wanted to be up there at the coffee shop working on something, and someone come up there and like, is that Mac, or like what is going on? And gives you a chance to talk about, hey, have you ever heard of Linux?
Yeah, no, that's exactly. Actually, I recall one time I was at South Plains and I had an HP, and I can't remember what laptop it was, but it was silver. Quite literally looks like a Mac aside from the big HP logo there. And I was running Elementary OS on it.
And that kind of looks like a Mac, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
some guy came over and was like, is that a Mac? I was like, no, this is a Windows laptop running a Mac lookalike Linux operating system.
and they're kind of like, what'd you say?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, anyway, so I decided to go ahead and change that up. So I found Mint and went ahead and put Mint on there. Linux Mint is a really solid Linux operating system. It's mostly, I think, I don't know. I hate to put this in that category, but that's, if someone's wanting to start on Linux, I usually say use Linux Mint because it has all the extra apps in there. It has all the extra drivers. It has everything ready to go. And for someone that's coming over from Windows,
it's a small learning curve.
Yeah, or even Mac for that matter. They don't have to learn it. So I don't want them to come in and think, oh my gosh, I got to do all these things and I can't fit Linux. It's just too hard and close it up. And we've all done that. I mean, we really have. Get kind of fed up and came back to it. But Linux is so much better nowadays than it used to be. So much more user-friendly. Mint's part of that. So when I say I want it, it's good for beginners, I'm not saying it's a beginning Linux.
Yeah.
I know there's people that can be using Mint and been using Mint all along. Probably know a lot more about Linux than I ever will. And they're doing well with it. Why mess with it if it's working perfect on your machine,
Exactly. I actually installed Linux Mint on one of my friend's grandmother's PCs.
Perfect.
Yes, and this grandmother, she unfortunately had I think it was a Windows XP laptop, after they dropped support for it, and it was just running terribly slow. So I looked into it. I tried to make it as fast as possible. Wasn't able to get too much out of it, so decided, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to back up all the photos, all the documents over to a hard drive and install Linux Mint on it. And then I made it as close to Windows as I possibly could.
Because most of them are just going to be opening up a browser and going out there, maybe email, if they're doing their email off of a client, bringing that in. Or, they could be using their email off the browser. And maybe they might use Microsoft Word, which, then they'll be using maybe LibreOffice or something like that. If they can get used to the menus being a little bit different area. That's perfect.
And it went smoothly. Even when I introduced her to it, it wasn't a big learning curve. I did have to tell her that this is a Linux operating system, so your exe files aren't probably going to run all that easily. Not that she needed it. She's just like, all I need is the browser. We're good.
Right. So let the friend know, hey, he's got Linux on. It's not Windows. You're not going to be able to do the same. I mean, the only thing that'd be cool to add to that, if you can, is putting like a login script to do an update. So when it comes in, it'll update every once in a while.
I didn't think about that at the time.
Yeah.
But you're not wrong there.
But that'd be a neat thing to do at that point, So
actually, speaking about it, CachyOS is, at least on mine, is updating every restart.
Really?
At the end.
I did not notice that.
Yeah,
that's
so
pretty cool.
I've enjoyed that. I was like, hey, this is nice. So it's downloading it probably in the background here.
Right.
And then whenever I shut it down, it's updating it right then.
That's pretty cool. So the only trouble I really had with the Mint was a little bit to do with the Bluetooth, and I had to reinstall the Bluetooth. Now, here's one thing. Of course, with Mint, your printer works just fine. It loads right up. It's right there. You don't have to go out and install it. Sometimes with the Arch stuff that you're using, you have to go out there and do all the work. And like I said, the wireless card and the printers. That's always the challenge for me. Anyway, so it disenabled. I re-enabled it and stuff like that. And after a couple times, it did fine. But I was missing my K runner.
Yeah.
Which that's where you can click on the desktop anywhere. You start typing like the app that you want to open up, it'll come up there and you can hit return and go in. You can do like define a word. It'll go do define a word. It'll give you suggestions out on the web stuff sometimes. And so I kind of gotten that used to that. I probably need to break that a little bit here and there so I can do some other desktop environments, but I really love that. So needless to say, I went ahead and put Kubuntu on there so I can have my KDE Plasma and Ubuntu, which I knew would work on this older Macintosh, if you will. But it's a MacBook Pro OS. MacBook Pro.
So what do you call it now?
So I call it my Kubuntutosh. I'm from the age that we used to have the Macintosh that sat on the little lap on top of your desk and stuff like that. But anyway, the Kubuntutosh. So it had Bluetooth problems too. So I reinstalled that. I'll let you guys know it's just like sudo app install -- reinstall, and I have this whole long script to put in the command line. But I can put that down in the notes for you guys to look at if you want to look at that. So So then, okay, can't leave well enough alone, right? So I was trying to load DaVinci Resolve on there to do some editing. I usually use DaVinci Resolve. I don't always use DaVinci Resolve, but sometimes I do. And I like to use, what's the other one? It's Kdenlive Live.
Yeah.
And Kdenlive Live's pretty strong too. So, but everybody talks about DaVinci Resolve, and I've used it a little bit. So I wanted to see if I can load that there. And it was having troubles, I guess, with the graphics. Now, you can load that on the MacBook Pro with macOS and have no problems whatsoever. So I know the hardware can do it.
Right.
So I was thinking maybe it was the graphics thing. So I tried to update the graphics, and yeah, then when I try to update it, now keep in mind, Kubuntu comes in with probably every graphics thing you need, even if you're doing it on AMD or on NVIDIA. So I knew that. I just was trying to get there, right? And so when I came back to log in, it would lock up before you get to your login. And you know, you have that little blinking thing over there.
The cursor.
Yeah, so I came back in the safe mode. And supposedly you can just uninstall it by doing this on your command line. And you do that, and it doesn't do it. And you do other things, and you can't do it. So after you're spending 30, 40, 50, 60, minutes and stuff, you start beginning, would it be faster for me just to reinstall it and bring everything in, depending on how deep you are in that install? So that's what I did. And Kubuntutosh is alive! It's alive! So how do you like the Kubuntutosh?
I'm liking it. It's pretty nice. It's I love the display, but I think that's Mac only there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, that's what got me to get this XPS as well. It's because they had that. It wasn't just a 1080 display, and Macs have that, and it drives me nuts that they have this beautiful screen all the time and stuff. The gaming, their gaming isn't as good. I hate that, because they have the equipment to do it.
Right.
It just drives me nuts on that. But man, beautiful screens, and there's other things we might talk about throughout here that we like about Macs, if you will, but you always come back and remind me, because I keep saying, well, why can't Windows or the Windows devices, these PCs, these Dells and these HPs and these Asus and all that stuff come in with that as well? And then you always have to remind me, well, you're not going to spend $1,300 to $2,000 for those laptops. If you're going to spend $1,300 to $2,000 for those laptops, it'll be a pretty nice laptop for Asus and HPs and
I would say that the other part of that is that Mac makes their devices very similar every single time. So they know that they have a certain set of hardware that is not going to change, and they can build their operating system around that, which makes it much faster. When you get into Windows, Linux, any other operating system out there, you are working with building a operating system or a game or a program across a lot of different hardware. And so it's not going to be as smooth necessarily, but that doesn't mean that you can't get the feel of a Mac on something else.
So let's just get this out of the way. We like the screen on the laptops and MacBook Pros. We like the touchpad. It's kind of like a glass touchpad, beautiful, very sensitive. I even like the keyboard on those things. They're really nice. And we like the battery life on it. It seems to have something down with that. We don't like the fact you're not allowed to change anything whatsoever.
It is so integrated.
Yeah. So, okay, I like the 8 gigabytes, but I want more. I want 16 gigabytes. Well,
buy a new product.
Buy a new product. And I'm not talking about just buying the memory to pick up the bag. So even up to these last ones, like maybe that 2015 there, you can actually change out the solid state drive to a bigger solid state drive. That's actually a big step for Apple stuff, So that's one of the things we don't like about it. In fact, if we think about it, me and you, if we got hooked up on the Mac stuff to start with instead of the Windows stuff to start with, I don't know if we would ever got to Linux or do anything like that. And that's not to say we wouldn't have been interested in other stuff. We just would have stayed there because you couldn't mess with the insides of the PC, if you will.
This is fair. I would agree.
It was just that being able to mess with the inside of the PC and change out the memories and change out the chips back in the day, and you get this motherboard and you build your tower and all that fun stuff you get to do, and I get to do this and know how it works. I think that's what drives us, me and you, people like us, we have this technology, if you will, but it's really, we have this curiosity.
Yeah. I recall when you wanted to build your first PC straight from scratch, buying all the parts, not pre-built. We actually went and bought individual parts. It
got
took
the motherboard, got the CPU, got the memory, got
took about 6 months to purchase everything.
Yeah.
Because you wanted to do it in steps so it wasn't a big hit on the paycheck.
Right. And it's still going to be cheaper.
Yeah.
But then at that point, you had to buy your Windows operating system, if you will. We weren't thinking much Linux in that day.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that was fun, but how much did we learn? That's the trick, and then we weren't scared to break into the computers. Break-in sounds like an offense that you get arrested for, but you would, open up your case and change things out. Now we do it just without thinking. I remember, you had this static thing on, so you don't short out, don't kill anything.
And to be honest, you
now it's just,
should.
Give me that screwdriver.
Okay, so to be honest, if you live somewhere that you have a lot of static electricity, you absolutely want to put yourself on a static board and have that wrist, and at the very, very least, discharge before you start going into it.
Goes and destroys the whole energy of excitement of the unknown.
No, I'm not destroying it. I'm preventing somebody else from destroying the PC.
And he's absolutely right. You got discharge that stack start with. Anyway, Kubuntutosh is alive. The macOS works great. In fact, I was telling Jamie the only problem I really have on it is when I went to the print screen. There is no print screen on a Mac keyboard. And see what they do is they use something like Command Alt 3, I guess, or something like that to make a screen. So it's more of a software thing than a hardware thing they do. So I actually had to get another app, and I think it's called Screenshot. So I could do a screen thing, wait 2 seconds or 3 seconds or whatever it is. So that's what I was doing. That was kind of fun. The other thing, so what were you doing the last couple of weeks, Jamie, that kind of in the computer area, IT, open source, Linux, or anything above?
Well, besides playing around with the CachyOS, which we'll talk about a little bit more here momentarily, I've been using Habitica. This is a online to-do gamified productivity application. They have an API. This is what that means is an application programming interface, or you can think of it as a set of instructions built directly from the programmer itself so that other programmers or users can utilize it to interact with that program without having to know its source code. So it makes it a little bit easier.
Right.
Okay. This API, allows other people to create third-party applications. So I was able to create some automation scripts using Google Scripts, so that they can help me do some of the repetitive or mundane tasks. One of these things is, like I said, it's gamified, so they have skills for your character, which is kind of fun. And your party can go on a quest, and so you can face bosses, or you can go and find items. And so
I thought you said this was work.
Yeah, it is work.
Okay, if you say so.
I mean, it's not like the video games you play on where you're going and hacking and slashing at the boss. No, this is by completing tasks you find.
So it's kind of like getting that next generation. They're used to these things on their little apps on their games and stuff like that on their devices, and you get rewards for this, and you can use those coins to buy this, and you get another puzzle, another this, or another.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. So one of those tasks that I always forget is to buff my party, especially when we're doing boss fights. So I have literally an app script that will go in once a day and will cast that party buff for us, so I don't have to remember.
What? Cheating, isn't it?
It's not cheating. I'm using resources that are available to me that I understand and know how to work with. I also use a macro. This is a programmer script that will type for you, usually. It's called Type It In. And unfortunately, it is a closed source application. I use it mostly at work. I also went ahead and purchased it and use it at home as well. And it's unfortunately a Windows only application. So again, mostly for work. But it has a certain syntax or set of rules or grammar, much like a programming language. So I go actually and create some, I have created some type-it-ins for Habitica because there are some tasks that I do at work repetitively enough that I do not want to have to go in and add each of those tasks manually or what have you. This also allows it to be more, what do they call it, consistent. So, every time I have those 14 tasks under this one to-do. And before, I might have 12, I might have 13, I might have 15, but now it's always 14. I don't have to worry about that.
Right.
So, but that's fun. That's something I enjoy because I do enjoy programming. So getting to do that, even for my coworkers occasionally, I have them come up to me and was like, hey, I want to be able to do this. Do you think typing in can do that? And I was like, yes or no, or let me see what I can do about it. Which actually came to implement the program that I talked about last time that I was built for my coworkers. One of my coworkers wanted to upload these Word files to our application out there, and it's on a website. He was asking, can type it in and do that? Unfortunately, because you can't interact with the web page very well for what we need to do using the keyboard only, that's not possible. So I investigated it further and was able to find, a alternative using Python, which I'm familiar with.
Right.
So let's go ahead and first and foremost kind of talk about what CachyOS. And by their own description, CachyOS is designed to deliver lightning fast speeds, stability, ensuring a smooth and enjoyable computing experience every time you use it. Whether you're a seasoned Linux user or just starting out, CachyOS is the ideal choice for those looking for a powerful, customizable, and blazing fast operating system. And so far, I think it delivers on every one of these points here.
So what makes the CachyOS different? Well, it says it utilizes its own repositories. It includes its own modified and optimized kernels. It offered better compatibility for NVIDIA and also AMD cards. It employs its own method to detect those graphics cards. It prioritizes the resources for games and programs, so it's using them at the right time, at the right place. It supports multiple bootloaders, including Grub and Refine and Systemd, all the boots you want to use. And CachyOS can also warn against risky updates in the terminal, and that might save people, especially when things get an early release because of Arch, and they may not got tested as much. So, all right. Anyway, so we'll be sure to put this in there, but it's Foronix, I think, .com, and he was doing the benchmarks of Ubuntu and CachyOS, and what's the other one I said? Clear Linux was one of them.
Clear Linux, yeah.
And there was a couple others that he did. And I'm not saying that one was a lot faster or getting things done, but as far as first place finishes, it was something like CachyOS had like 30% to 35%, somewhere in that area. The next closest was, I think, Ubuntu or Fedora or one of those, and it was down in the single digits. Clear Linux, for some reason, had more than any of them in the 50% range. So we'll may look at Clear Linux one of these days.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe we need to add that to our list.
Yeah. But as far as the terms, what they're claiming to be faster and cleaner and quicker and all that stuff, it meets that. Okay,
It
so
does.
why don't you go ahead and talk about their support a little bit?
So support, and again, community with Linux is impressive, okay?
Yeah.
I have never, ever, even with Arch, I've had, people say the Arch user base is the worst. Well, I haven't actually experienced that any, but...
And what they mean is the people themselves, not the information. So let's clarify that. They have the information out there, but some guys, and I don't know what it is, it seems like some of the distros you work with, there's just friendly people all over the place. Some of the distros, I don't know if it's because they're wanting to be acting that way or not.
Or elitist or something. But, that's true of anywhere. Anywhere you go, you can... Sports fans. I kid you not. You get into the...
Especially around this time of year.
Yep.
Go KC.
That's not...
Of course, by the time this is out there, we'll know whether or not KC goes or not.
Anyway, the support in the community is awesome, okay? You can connect with the CachyOS team and their community through many different channels. There's Discord, which we've talked about. We have our own kind of a platform where you guys can message and interact and talk, and they have actual voice chat rooms as well where you can join in and talk to people. Telegram, which is just kind of like a instant messaging thing. Matrix, which I have never used. I haven't even heard of it. And of course, they have a forum. Forum is a good space as well. It allows you to put in a lot more information all at once.
Right.
It gives you time to think out your answer before replying, and it gives other people a big chance to reply in their own terms and time as well. So if you're looking for something where you need to post a bunch of source code or terminal output, forums are probably your best bet. Discord, you could do that. But they do have a character limit, so at some point, you're going to have to cut some of that off to send the message, and then send an extra message to have that information there as well.
Okay, as far as desktop environments, one of those areas, they're just really limited in it. They don't have any at all. I mean, looking down this list, they only have KDE Plasma and Cutefish and i3 and GNOME and OpenBox and Wayfire and XFCE, XLQT, BSPWM, Cinnamon, UKUI, Hyperland, Budgie, LXDE, Mate, and Qtile. So, I mean, I wish they had more for us to choose from. I mean, really.
Really small group, isn't it?
Yeah. So, as far as what goes on your live flash or your thumb drive, they have KDE and GNOME and XFCE. I don't think the XFCE is up there right now. I think they have that under some type of under construction or whatever. But that's just coming up to the environment where you're going to be installing from.
Or, if you're wanting to test it out without having to make changes to your device, the live environment is what you use. But that will be, when you're using the live environment, you're limited to either KDE, GNOME, or XFCE.
If they have that, get back up there.
Yeah.
But then at that point, you can choose during the installation process any of these other desktops. So whatever flavor you like, apparently they have it.
Yes.
And I want to say most of the Arch distros do kind of have that ability.
A lot of the ones that are using Calamaris as their installer.
Or calamari. Which
Calamari,
he calls it calamari. So I just, think of the squid. But anyway.
And that's just the installing program. That's the program that'll go in and install it to your software. To your hardware
interface.
The GUI interface, yes. If you remember from our previous video, if you haven't seen it, go look at it. But yeah, so which one did you choose?
All right. Obviously, I've been kind of on a KDE Plasma kick lately, so that's what I did, KDE Plasma, and that's what I've been using. So which one did you choose?
Well, first, I was actually going to try something entirely different. I was going to use Cutefish. Yeah. But I'm thinking either something with my software or maybe just the installation went corrupt or something like that. Every time I come into it, it looks great. Looks like a Mac, actually. It's kind of cool. And then I launch one application. Doesn't matter what it is. And then everything's frozen. I can't click on anything. I can't move anything. I can move my mouse. That's about it. Yeah. But the UI, the user interface, the GUI, is completely locked up. So, uninstalled, reinstalled it, thinking that might have been the issue. Right. And it stayed on for an extra hour before locking up. Oh, wow. And I was like, okay. And so that made me think that this is maybe my hardware is a little outdated for Cutefish.
And just so you guys know, I went ahead and loaded the Cutefish when he said that himself, and it loaded up on mine just fine. It was working okay. Now, granted, I didn't take it out hours and hours, but anyway, I just wanted to see if it was a hardware issue or not. So it might be a sometimes there's usually you'll be able to tell pretty quick with your thumb drives, but since you're not loading into that environment to start with, it may be that. So,
but I ended up using Budgie, one of the ones that I do like. The second choice that I might have made is KDE, or Mate.
Right, and I'm okay with all those, actually, and I'm okay with Cinnamon, too. I just, like I said, I kind of got used to this one. I can do GNOME. I like GNOME. It's just, you get used to the different tweaks of each one of those desktops, and you kind of get used to doing that.
And there is nothing that says I can't go find a widget for KDE to accommodate this, but one of the things that I like about Budgie is right at the very top left of my screen, right on the wallpaper, is showing my weather. And right in the bottom right of my wallpaper shows my system time in big, bold, white letters makes it real easy to see.
Yeah. Of course, in West Texas, the weather always changes. So.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, being able to minimize all my windows before going to lunch and
The
seeing
rest of
that,
us are pulling out our
rain.
phone. Okay.
I mean, Katie does have widgets for that very same project, but
Right.
anyway.
And, with me, it's the K runner. I love that. And I love the fact that you can take your windows and put them in different areas, just by using the command arrow keys. I love that. It has the ability to do some of the, I don't know if you call it tiling or panels. I think they call it panels. And you can actually split up your different screens and different things. So there's some things you can do that makes your desktop workable, I guess, if you're doing a lot of things at once.
And it all depends on you and your preference.
Yeah.
If you can work with that, great. Go and use it. If you can, if that's not your speed, try something different.
And of course, I use Belina Etcher for my my USB creator, and you used Ventoy.
Use Ventoy again. Yeah.
The cool thing about Ventoy, you'll have to say this, is the fact that once you set up that Ventoy thumb drive, then basically all you're doing is dragging that ISO onto that thumb drive, just like a regular thumb drive, and then you just boot up to that thumb drive. Works. I still have to go through a couple extra steps. That I don't really mind because I've done it 1,000 times, so it's not that.
And Belina Etcher is actually a pretty fast burner or image writer anyway.
Yeah.
And it also goes back and verifies that it was installed correctly.
I love that.
Which is something I
overlooked before. I overlooked it, and now that you mentioned it our last time, it's like, yeah, it does that, doesn't it? So it's looking out for you. It's helping you out because you can load the whole thing and then find out it all to do with a bad download, if you will, or bad source at the time that you used it. And so again, you download the ISO that you want. You take that ISO and you burn it onto a thumb drive. You take that thumb drive, you boot up to the thumb drive by doing going into your BIOS, or usually they have a bootloader that you can change, and usually that's like escape all the way through F12 depending on which machine you have. Sometimes there's a tab that people use too, but
most common ones that I've seen are F5, F6, F10,
F8, F11, and F12.
Rephrase. The ones that I had to do most frequently were F5 and F6.
So my Dells and
it really depends on the manufacturer.
And Asus seem to have,
but
that's what it is.
If you're wondering which one you need to hit, and it doesn't show it on the BIOS screen for
look it up on the webpage.
3 seconds, yeah, look it up on the webpage. Go into your manual.
You don't do the slide up the function keys. and honestly, that does work. But then the next time you do it, it's like you still don't know which key it is. So
yeah, I used to hold F6, F8, F11, and escape all at once. Whenever, especially when I got a new motherboard, which means a new way of putting into that. It's like, which one is it?
Yeah.
I made it. The other problem with that is if you do happen to do that way, you might go into the setup, and that's not exactly where you want to be.
So the file system I chose was just the XFS. There's so many acronyms in Linux. So XFS. Now, usually I do use the BTRFS, and that's something to do with the snapshots or time shifts and stuff like that. I like to use that. But this is their default. I went ahead and loaded their default. It's working fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm using the same filing system, and I'm like my dad. I would have used BTRFS if I differently. If I had this as my daily driver, BTRFS would have been the choice that I made. Nothing comes close to me in that regard.
Yeah.
Ubuntu usually uses ext4. That will be one of the classic ones that you see frequently, and that's a good one too. There's nothing wrong with any of these file systems. Yeah.
So and part of it's just remembering, if you're going to do snapshots or some of these other things, what kind of system do they have in place to be able to go back
easily
one step, especially if you're using these, what we were talking about before, if you have a constantly updating system, you can step back one. I didn't do that much at all, never had to worry about that much. And then I want to say I had Garuda, and then right after Garuda I had Tumbleweed.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, okay, what do I do? And I just, go on the website, you do this, you roll back here, and to save it, you had to do a certain command, and it went back to that desktop and stayed that. And then I waited, a little bit before I updated until they got that fixed and updated and did fine. So it's just a fail safe, if you will, and I kind of like having those fail safes. What about do we have any issues?
The only issue I only have 2 issues. The cute fish was one of them. That was the biggest issue that I had.
So the cute fish wasn't all that cute.
No, not this time. The other one that I have is I had issues with my system coming out of sleep. And I do not know why, but I have this frequently with a lot of Linux.
So it's not just this Linux, perhaps.
Yeah, with a lot of them. And it's...
Were they all Arch or just per chance?
Per chance, honestly.
Yeah. Okay.
I've seen a Debian-based, like Ubuntu, not give me any issues. I've seen Arch not give me any issues on certain ones. Like, I believe Garuda didn't give me any of those issues. But it's something that I'm pretty familiar with. I've seen it happen before. Unfortunately, I haven't yet gone in to actually figure out what the actual cause is to fix it. And there is people out there that probably have already done that.
And know what it is.
And know what it is. And know how to
maybe
fix
they
it.
can comment and let you know. I had that a little bit going on with Void, but it was to do with when it came out of the sleep, it would go into the extended display or mirror the display, that punch key or whatever, every time there for a while. But somehow that worked out eventually, and I don't know why. When it came out, it would just do that, it wasn't consistent. And that, as a scientist, that bothers me. I want some consistency so I can solve that problem. And you can't solve that problem if it just happens every once in a while. But
right.
But Void was, other than that, was solid. It was just one of those weird things.
Yep.
Mine had to do with Audacity. And so when I was working on the last episode that we went through, I was doing it, we're serious. When we load up these distros, we're going to be trying them as daily drivers. Yes, we have our backup fail-safe system that we're going to work on if everything else is, if we have to get work done. Okay, but I'm trying to do most of all my work. Usually I even take it up to work with me and make sure the printers work and everything like that as well, not just my printer here at home. And I can connect up there and do my notes and stuff. And most of the things I'm doing aren't going to be gaming or anything like that. I do gaming here at home with it, but when I take it to work, I'm doing work.
Right.
I just continue on my day like normal. Outside a couple of Windows things I have to use in Windows, that's what I try to use as much as I can. Even my desktop, which runs Windows 90% of the time there, the 10% of the time I have another, Debian in this case, that I go to on my dual boot, even at work. And sometimes I need a dual boot because it's faster to go through Linux on certain networking things to me than it is to try to do the Windows stuff through there. But anyway, so we do that. So we go through there and we do things like that. So I'm actually doing some audio. Our audio here lately has been driving me nuts. But so I was trying to fix that. But for some reason, Audacity on my laptop, for the CachyOS, it was not letting me put the pointer down for the line, and marks where you're playing that voice, right? So you wouldn't see where you actually marked because it wouldn't put that line there for you. Never. And so I thought just for a second, hey, let me. I'm loading up in Wayland. And I usually don't mess with this stuff either. I just know Wayland is the more modern one. But
And this is a Windows, I don't know the name of it. So when it's the part that builds the graphics that you're seeing, the GUI. So you have Wayland, you have Xorg or X.org or X11.
yeah.
And continue on. I'm sorry.
No, it's your desktop environment's window manager.
Window manager, that's the word.
So it's placing the windows and drawing it up for you, basically. So it goes to like maybe a Windows server, if you will, and then bringing it back. So you press the button, we want this reaction, and brings it up in the graphical form, the borders, and all that stuff. So that's kind of what it's doing. But X11's been around for a long, long, long time. 1987, we were looking at 1984, made the early parts of it.
Right.
And Wayland's more of a newer type system, and I want to say everything's being shifted that way. One's more stable, X11. One's newer and faster, that's your Wayland. But I'm thinking that the system seems to be shifting that way now in all the Linux communities, so there may be a time that we won't even be able to do X11. But anyway, I switched it from Wayland to X11 on the load up, and for some reason that fixed that problem. I was able to go on just fine. So it's not anything that's messing with me right now, really, but I guess there'll be a time we won't have that choice. So hopefully they get the bug out, or we get everything figured out before that. But that's the only problem I had. And that was short, So
there's not any of these ones I haven't really run into.
no, I usually have serious ones. It's like I cannot get this to work. So
I think that's the experience talking there to Dad.
I don't know about that. I don't feel like I've been gaining over the years anything.
I would say you have,
because you listen to these other guys on these podcasts and places and stuff, and it's like those guys are ultra geniuses. They don't have any life except in code, script, Linux, open source. Go get a life. Go read a book. And of course, if they don't read a book, it's going to be Linux 106 or something. Anyway, what are the things that we like about it?
So I enjoy the installer choice, the GUI installer, which I call it Calamares.
Yeah.
He's calamari, however you want to look at it.
No, it is calamari. You actually have it spelled wrong here, but it is that. And I just tease with the calamari, because it's just a weird name. But
it allows you to choose several packages to be installed during the actual installation. So you're not having to go into the, let's say if you knew that you wanted LibreOffice Fresh or LibreOffice, there's another version of it, I can't remember.
Well, it's just LibreOffice Fresh or LibreOffice.
Right.
So one's more stable, one's a newer.
Correct. Yeah. More of the rolling release, bleeding edge that we've talked about before. That you can go ahead and choose that in this installer, and it will install it. Not only that, allows you to choose one of the very minimal amount of desktop environments there.
Correct. Or how much you put on there. Correct. Yeah.
And then so that prevents some additional installation that you need to do after, whenever it's done installing it for you, you go load up, it's already there. That's a fantastic little thing. The other thing that I like about it is the Cachy Hello.
Cachy Hello, any of the distros that open up to Hello screen really makes it a lot more user friendly.
Yes, it does. And they help you out, kind of guide you, direct you to what you need to do. You want to update, you want to run this, you want to run that. But on the Cachy Hello, it allowed you to choose a DNS provider.
Yes.
Domain name system. And this makes it much simpler than going through the terminal or Wi-Fi settings or even editing a text file to do the same thing. This is important to me in particular as a father because, again, I can use something like Cloudflare's family DNS or AdGuard's family protection, and it blocks a lot of the adult sites, so I don't have to worry about my daughter or my son accidentally getting into one of those.
Excellent.
AdGuard also blocks some of the ads. Now, this is a
bonus.
It is a bonus to an extent because now people, some websites are going, hey, you've got a ad block. Well, you can't view our system until you disable your ad block.
Yeah.
So, in the majority, I don't have to worry about that.
Your aluminum hat, your metal hat. But no, I mean, protecting your family is important. I mean, there's worse things out there than people knowing where you're shopping and what brands you like and stuff like that. So there are some worse things out there. The CachyOS Hello is awesome. It makes things easier, I think. The gaming, they had a one command in terminal, sudo pacman-s CachyOS-gaming-meta, and it loaded the Steam and Proton and Bottles and Lutris and Wine and several other things to help you with the gaming right off, so you don't have to go out and load those things yourself. They have one line, and we'll put it in the notes, and you loaded up all your stuff for gaming. And the gaming is pretty nice on it. I was enjoying playing that at the same frame rates with the same settings as I was with my vanilla Arch load, if you will. And so that works pretty good. I like the Nord desktop theme. So it's kind of, and I'll put some screenshots out there when we go to edit this, and it has this nice little blue lettering and blue stuff like that. It's just cool looking. That's all.
Yeah. Sometimes it's the small things that make make it grand, and nothing against all the larger things there, but sometimes the large things are prevalent in most operating systems. So you get these little little nuances that make Cachy and not Linux Mint and makes Ubuntu Ubuntu.
Sometimes it's visual, sometimes it's behind the scenes. We were talking about behind the scenes stuff going on with the kernels and the way they tweak some of the stuff to make it work. So, and this is one of the ones that in the front. And yes, you can do some of these saves yourself. If you went ahead and loaded Vanilla Arch and you can work through it and you can do whatever.
Right.
I'd like to get to that point where I can make my own desktop theme, if you will, and load all that script off every time and it works like that. I'm not there yet.
You want to know something? There is a through GNOME, or sorry, not GNOME, OpenSUSE, there's a builder where you can actually kind of make your own live installer, customized. So, it's got the DE, any packages that you want. So something that maybe we'll do in one of these series, maybe we'll go ahead and build our own Linux system in some way and test it out for
Good
a
luck,
bit.
Jamie. I'm out of it.
Okay, maybe I'm going to, and then I'm going to force my dad to work on it.
Yeah. The thing is, there's some other things. I kind of got hooked on this battery stuff and the lid close and all that stuff. And I was talking to Jamie one night. I said, I think the CachyOS was actually making better battery on my laptop. And so I started timing it and checking and stuff like that, And then I went back to the Debian on the same laptop and tested it and stuff like that. And it turned out that the CachyOS was actually giving me 30% more time on the laptop without plugging it in than the Debian was on the same laptop, the same desktop environment with the same settings, doing about the same thing, which is mostly notes and, looking through things on the web and just simple things like that. And I want to say I was getting somewhere around 3 hours with the Debian, and I was getting closer to 5 or a little bit over 5 with the CachyOS. So about maybe 3 and something on the Debian and 5 something, which since we were going back and forth on Discord on that, I probably have the notes back on Discord just talking about that, but it did do about 30% better job as far as power management on the same settings than the Debian was on the same hardware. So,
and we talked about Cachy boasting about speed. Well, my Manjaro doesn't load near as fast as Cachy does. And I have it installed, both of these are installed on a solid state drive. Both of them have similar read-write speeds, so it's not the hardware that's causing the speed jump. It's whatever CachyOS is doing in the background for their device.
Anyway, the only odd thing I noticed, or awkward thing about CachyOS, when you went out to CachyOS Hello, there was a second page. And that's kind of cool. On that second page, you can go ahead and enable your Bluetooth if your Bluetooth wasn't enabled already. So you clicked on there. I found that after I already did the enabling through the terminal. But the odd thing is you had a package manager on both that front page and the second page. One was on a dark screen, one was on a white screen, and one had just a little bit less packages than the other one did. I don't know why that was, and this was totally different from Octopi, but you did have Octopi as well. Not anything totally off, but just strange, that's all.
Well, I didn't really notice anything awkward. I honestly didn't even notice that, so good on you for finding something that I didn't.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and rate this. Rating CachyOS. So, ease of installment, 1 to 10.
I'd say that this one's an easily 9.
Okay. Features, 1 to 10.
Features? Oh, that was pretty good. I put it up there in the 9, maybe 8, because it is a little bit on the streamlined side of things, so it doesn't have like the same things you would have in Garuda.
Right.
But still.
What about the performance?
Oh, 10.
Okay.
Easy.
All right. Easy to use?
It's really easy. I haven't noticed any issues. Even it has the GUI, the windowed versions of installers, so it makes it a little bit easier for you guys and for just about anybody to install things.
Right. What about, so you give that a 10 for easy to use, or a 9?
I get it a 9.
Okay.
Just because there's also it's still Arch, so there are some...
Just a little bit, yeah, a little bit. We just, always, if you get into a problem, it seems to be a little bit harder. Although I would say, the AUR does allow you to do a lot of things. Now, that's not saying it's easy, but, it seems like I'm getting into this habit more when I'm using like let's say like a Ubuntu
Right.
based system, I can probably get everything I need with Flatpak if I had to go there. With Arch, I can get everything I need off of AUR. So, I can build the packages that I need for almost anything that I'm going to use at any given time. So I'm just kind of get used to that. So what about documentation and support?
I believe that's way up there too. I didn't dive too much into that. How much did you dive in on the documentation and support there?
I got into it pretty deep on most of the stuff, and it seems like they had everything covered.
Yeah.
It's just easy to go out there and find stuff. Like I said, that's where I found the graphics line that was pretty cool for the gaming. It's like, that's really cool, and that was all out there. And they have Discord out there as well, and they have I want to say Telegram and other things as well. So they have quite a few different places that you can go to, and a blog to work through as well. I would give the ease of installation a 10. It's pretty easy to install. Features, probably 8. Or, they had a lot of extra features.
That gaming installation was awesome.
That was cool. Yeah, I love that.
And the fact that you had the Bluetooth,
Right.
even though you already figured out how to fix that for yourself.
Right. Performance, 10 out of 10. Easy to use, 9 out of 10. Again, same thing you were talking about the Arch situation. Documentation, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. So, let's see. We were trying to talk about a new way of kind of doing the overall rating on this. And I was thinking kind of a D&D term, if you will. So, like if it's an easy type system as far as it's good for a beginner, I would put it as simple. And then we had, central, if you will, or center, or
Intermediate. Or...
Okay, so intermediate for somewhere in between a beginner and an expert, and then we also have experienced. As for the one that was
right
knows their Linux forward and backwards pretty well, and then going down you have stable, okay, and unstable. So with that said, I went ahead and rated this as an intermediate stable, which means that it could be, a little challenging for the beginner, but it can still get it done with a little help from someone else, usually some guidance. But, the experienced person shouldn't get bored with it either. They should be able to do pretty good with it and do things they want. The only, like I said, is that little Arch thing there, the printer, and let's go out and get the printer done. Just every once in a while these little things happen. So I would call it, intermediate stable.
Right.
That means as stable as it can be, but intermediately challenging to people.
Right. So, are you willing to use it as a daily driver?
Yeah, actually that happened. I went ahead and switched my Debian on my Dell XPS, the 2018 laptop, over to CachyOS, and it's still got CachyOS on it right now. This is my daily driver as far as laptops go. It's a touch screen. It has the bigger, bigger than 1080 type display on it. It has, it's a pretty fast computer. It has a graphics card in it that if you wanted to game, you could on it. It's not the one I usually use for gaming, but it is the one that I use probably daily.
Right.
Besides the Kubuntutosh, which has been kind of nice to sit down, open it up, and type notes. I've heard people use different things for their notes, pulling an old Commodore keyboard out, but it has other internals on it and things like that, So that's kind of what that is, I guess. So, yeah, I would say I can use this as my daily driver. In fact, as far as the laptop, I am using it as a daily driver. So, if we're keeping score at home, I have the CachyOS, my 2018 Dell. I have Arch Vanilla on my gaming laptop, which is an Asus TUF. I have Arch Vanilla on my desktop now because I recently changed that over. And, of course, I have the Kubuntutosh, which is Kubuntu, on the Mac OS, or, the MacBook Pro. And then, we do know if I have a Steam Deck, it does have SteamOS or Arch on it as well.
Yeah.
So we may have to change that on the Discord, on our profiles there. And speaking of Discord, we do have a Discord out there that you guys can go out and look at and talk to us on.
Yeah, please come on, see us, talk with us. We're on Facebook as well. And of course, if you put a comment in our YouTube channel here will reach out and talk to you guys about that with you as well on that. So, I would also use this as a daily driver. I have yet to install it full circle on my device, as my dad has already gone and done so. But
right, you have it on bare metal, but not the bare metal that's
inside,
currently inside your machine.
I've got it on a spare solid state drive on the outside, and for the most part, I boot into it. I'll admit,
right.
But at the present moment, it's still Manjaro that's the full in on metal inside the system there.
Right. Is that on both your? What about your desktop? Were you running on that?
I'm running Manjaro.
Manjaro there as well.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I don't have a laptop that I'm using at present.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's why I borrow your Kubuntutosh.
There you go. Anyway, this is our verse of the day. So, Jamie, you have the verse of the day today.
So, today it's going to be Proverbs 21:17. It says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. That's in the New International Version. Well, this is really talking about your Christian brothers and sisters challenging you and helping you grow, or helping others grow. This is the disciples of Jesus teaching others to be disciples, but can also be applied in many other places. Linux is included. Linux, like my dad and I, we challenge each other on these things, and we hope to challenge you all as well to grow. And we hope that you guys challenge us with this too. So as we're going through all these different operating systems, we're coming across new challenges that we haven't encountered because if you stay in one spot, you get stagnant. It challenges us to learn something new, try something different.
Right.
So,
right.
And makes us sharper in the Linux industry, the open source industry, because of it. So
just like we can study the Bible and help each other understand the Bible even better, we can also do that with our Linux stuff that we're doing as well, or anything in life. We're made to help each other in the world, not hurt each other. We're supposed to be lifting each other up, encouraging each other. So remember that as we go out in the world today, and no matter who we're working with or talking to, we're supposed to be in fellowship with each other. Let's talk about the next distro. We had a few on the list. Spiral Linux. We were talking about Clear Linux earlier. Sparky Linux and Alpine and Seduction and Arco. There's a whole mess of them we can do. What about BROS or Bros?
Bros OS. I like that. I don't think that's what they call it, but
yeah, BR-OS Linux, and that's probably what we're looking at to go to the next one. And there's several on the list that we could try, so it's not like there's a shortage right now. There's over 100. So just on the distro watch that we're talking about, distrowatch.com, but there's even more than that don't even make it on that list. So there's several out there. You
know what? We should next time we should put it on a little spin wheel
and just spin it
and let it choose for us. But Bros OS is going to be a Debian based Ubuntu system, and they are from Brazil.
Cool. So. All right, so we're going to do a little bit of terms in Portuguese. Anyway.
Got to brush up on the Portugal there, huh?
In closing, remember to love God, love your neighbor, keep your mind sharp, and also your computer with Linux and open source. Love you guys. Take care. Bye.